sort of, not really. I can't really see you, but hello, everyone here in the room. I like to sort of, and you guys can do it in the chat. Maybe Juan, you can let me know too, but who are you in the room? Who do we have here? All BSN, Meccan, MSN? Everybody's Meccan in the room. Aha. Oh, so I'm the filler in between class, right? Got it. Oh, I appreciate that. Right. I'm trumping lunch for a lot of people. That's a big deal. That I'm like more important than food for some of you, or we're doing it together. That's perfect. I love it. Okay, cool. Well, so I kind of talk a little bit in this for folks who are working on their bachelor's or BSN prepared, Meccan, MSN folks, doctoral folks. I bring it all together. Okay, so this is a talk about what really happens after nursing school / the future / what's coming. I have had a very interesting career path, a very non-traditional career path. I think that's why they asked me to come share about it. But I think that my interesting non-traditional career path isn't all that interesting or non-traditional anymore. And I think it's going to reflect a lot more about what your career path is like and is going to be. And so that's why we're talking about this, okay? I don't know, I guest lecture here fairly frequently. Sometimes I'm the controversial guy. We like controversial, that's good. I'm also a lot more casual than a lot of folks, although I don't swear anymore. I've given up swearing in front of my students. I know I'm sorry. Thank you. It's a safe space, except who knows who's watching online right now, right? Probably my old advisors and professors. Okay, so yeah, this is me, and people like to see this. It's also gonna impact what we talk about later. So I know this feels a little like self-defacing. Oh, my look, there we go. But we're gonna show this. Some of y'all have seen this, but we're gonna show this to you again, okay?
We are joined by Dr. James Simmons, hospitalist, nurse practitioner, and founder of Ask the NP.
Try not to be too scientific, Chris, so that you can keep up.
Thank you. So, Doc, I appreciate it. You know me well.
You're welcome.
Right, that one.
Sorry,
There we
my
go.
fault.
That one. Sorry. All right, here we go.
Megan steered you wrong.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay, Henderson. It's all your fault. Toothpaste was made for your mouth. Just leave it in your mouth.
There you go.
My lumps are plump. My lumps are plump. My lips are plump.
All along this journey, you've been our eyes on the ground telling us this is what I'm seeing in this moment of the pandemic in hospitals. Everyone's been like, oh, I'm done with the pandemic, but is it done with us? What are you seeing?
No, I mean, this virus is here to stay forever, whether people really like hearing that or not.
You may have bacterial vaginosis.
It's Dr. James? I thought I was just in ketosis.
Some people with vaginas who are also following a keto lifestyle have a pretty dramatic change in odor of their vagina. You're not alone. Do processed foods cause depression, or does depression cause people to eat more processed food? Okay, when people do eat a lot of ultra-processed foods, particularly sweeteners, particularly aspartame, it looks like there's maybe some sort of association, not causation, with depression.
Magnesium can help relax your muscles. It's also really great for constipation, but you just have to be really, yep, there you go, Henry.
Henry doesn't do so.
Henry's pooping is like legendary, yeah.
Or once you have it, is it there and you need to, seek some sort of attention?
Look at this guy asking smart questions today. Wow, good job, Henry DiCarlo. Depends on the severity of the clot, depends on where it is, depends on how big it is.
Or are they just taking what's there and somehow being able to extract even more out of it?
This is how they did it, Henry. That is an excellent question.
Thank you. I'm learning. Good. Daily affirmation.
Henry's like, that was a good question.
They like hearing that. Yeah.
Right, I'll say it again, Henry. Excellent question.
Good job, Henry.
Never been a better question.
Ever. And we're done, right?
Well, there's a new one that's coming out that's supposed to be good for you, and it's natural.
Yeah, I'm so super addicted to mine as well, Jason. Like I just dump it in the coffee every morning. I got a soda here on my desk that has some of it in there, but erythritol is the one we're talking about. And some people have heard of erythritol, but a lot of people are probably consuming it and not even necessarily knowing it because it is a sugar alcohol filler.
Dr. James Simmons, some of these conversations are tough. I appreciate you really working through it with us.
Yeah, my pleasure, Chance. I know these are difficult conversations, but I think it's really important to work through the information and really be thoughtful about this, because this is about people's humanity and their right to healthcare. In our community, in the Black community, 45% of Black women and 40% of men experience some sort of either verbal, sexual, emotional, or physical abuse.
But there is a reason why this disease has disproportionately impacted communities of color. Where's the representation of individuals of color? Where's the representation of queer people at the table making decisions?
And they said, all right, we're just going to look at all 1,600 of these drugs and see if there's any sort of like association between people having had taken this drug and not developing Alzheimer's. Well, guess which one rose to the top? It was Viagra, believe it or not.
So over it. I'm so tired. Like, stay home. I don't even know what the hell to say because we don't have the resources to save you.
We can turn the Staples Center into a hospital or the Convention Center into a hospital all we want. But if we don't have the people to staff those, it doesn't matter.
My sort of overall message and takeaway from everyone is to everybody, just take a step back and breathe. Give those folks who are doing these things, reading the data, combing through the research, having all of these meetings, give everyone a chance to come up with the official recommendation.
Look at that, even more claps. Wow, applause. Let me see if I can get this thing to work. Maybe we got this. There we go. All right, we'll go from there. Okay, so that's getting long. So I'm going to cut that. I'm going to edit that down. In the world of TikTok now, nobody wants to pay attention to a 3.5-minute long video of my face. Getting a little long. But thank you for humoring me and watching that and taking some notes about it, because we're going to talk more about it later. By the way, there's lots of time for Q&A at the end, but I'm also like, we got a small group. We got like 8 folks online, I think, or something. So like, if you got questions as we go, shout it out. I'm a super open book. One of the things that I think I talked to Juan about a little bit, and that y'all know, like, I will share any and everything. We can talk money at the end. Everybody wants to know money. We can talk what it's really like. We can talk about how I feel about hustle culture. All this stuff is happening via hustling. We can talk about DNP versus PhD. We can talk about what's going on at School of Nursing right now, but I'm taking my mic off for that. We can talk about whatever you want, okay? So write the questions down. Shout them out as we go, but I'm gonna cover a lot of stuff. Okay, so this is your, like, you're in school, you're mechaning, most of you right now, some of you are like bacheloring. You're like, okay, do I really have to work on a med-surg floor when I'm done? First of all, that is a specialty in and of itself. It is fantastic. We need med-surg nurses. I actually love med-surg. As a hospitalist nurse practitioner, most of the patients I take care of as a hospitalist are on med-surg or tele floors, right? I'm the primary care provider for those. And those folks are sick. Those folks need our help, and those folks need our care every bit as much as someone who's in the CT ICU at Children's, and you're doing all this stuff on pumps, and it's all sexy and crazy, and you're talking crazy language. But the majority of our patients are adults, and the majority of our patients are on med-surg and tele units. So I will never, ever, 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 ever knock that. This is also, the point of this talk is to tell you that there are other ways to be a nurse, right? Once you get that RN, once you get those degrees behind your name, and you certainly don't have to have all the obnoxious letters that I do, the world is your oyster. You can do with it what you will, okay? So this is sort of a little inspirational talk about that. But before we go further, y'all have heard this, right? For bedside nursing, for RNs, ADN, and bachelor's prepared nurses, 6% growth, that's year to year still through 2032. There are about 193 job openings annually. That's just in the United States. It's crazy, right? One of the things we love about nursing is you're always gonna have a job, right? No matter what, you're always gonna have a job. Same thing for, I kind of had to lump these two. These are mostly NP statistics, but 38% growth in nurse practitioners in the next 10 years. The latest data available is 2022, by the way. So that's unbelievable. I mean, you guys hear this all the time. US News and World Report is always like, the #1 career is being a nurse practitioner, right? The #1 job growth is being a nurse practitioner. That's why a lot of y'all are doing this. But being an NP isn't for everybody. DNP and PhD, it's kind of interesting. There's not a ton of information about this. Everything you look up for PhD prepared nurses is like yes, 87% of people who teach in academia are PhD prepared nurses. But I'm here to tell you there are a lot of other cool, I almost said a bad word, cool stuffs you can do as a PhD or DNP nurse that don't have anything to do with academia if you don't want to do anything in academia. So there are the traditional nursing career paths, right? So, and I kind of bucketed these out, but they're not absolutely specific to each category, okay? So there's hospital-based nursing. That's sort of like the traditional thing that we think about, like and that's what a lot of folks are gonna go for right away. And I think everyone should have some experience with that. I think it's great. I think it helps frame how you think about people. I think it helps frame the privilege that we have in our profession to be able to take care of people when they are at their worst in whatever environment that is in. So some organizations I work with, we care for a lot of people who are living with HIV and who are experiencing homelessness here in Los Angeles. So those folks, I'm not taking care of them in a hospital, but some of them are at their lowest low. Now, maybe they're on their meds, their viral load is undetectable, that's great, but they don't have a home. That's sometimes people's lowest low, right? We're also seeing people sometimes in the middle of heart attacks and strokes, or grandma's broken hip, or like whatever, right? But I see that as a privilege for us to be with people in those environments. Or, isn't she cute? Our little kiddos. Although I don't know about high-fiving a kid with gloves on, but that's just, so subacute, long-term facilities, all these different types of things, like whatever your thing is, there is an opportunity for you there, including public health, which we all learned a lot about during COVID, right? Public health nurses, research, health education, et cetera. Under master's degree, what's really cool here is you guys get this, right? A lot of clinics, particularly in rural and underserved communities, there is a ginormous need for primary care nurse practitioners. So FNPs, but also adult, also acute care. There's a big dearth of primary care providers around the country. We can fill that need, and the evidence still shows 50 some years later that we still deliver the same care with same / slightly better outcomes often, and patients like us more, right? So tons of job opportunities for you there. And then as well, of course, the doctorally prepared nurses, advanced leadership roles, right? And teaching and all of those things, right? We think about that. Oh, this is Dr. So-and-so, they're teaching at my school. This is Dr. So-and-so, they're doing research. But we don't think about Dr. So-and-so, RN, in other environments. Can y'all think of any off the top of your head? Any like cool nurses that are doctorally prepared that are doing something other than teaching? Right. Kind of the point of this, but there are lots of people doing these things. You just don't know about them. So we're going to talk about them a little bit. And this is going to inspire you to be like, hey, I actually think that there's some really cool things I can do with my career, regardless of whatever degree I have. So some non-traditional career paths. You know, I think public health gets overlooked a lot. I really like it in terms of like connecting with the community. You might not insert IVs, you might not really administer medications, but you're assessing someone's home, you're assessing their family living situation, you're providing recommendations for them. There are public health RNs who help consult when they build people's homes who have physical disabilities so that they have the right wheelchair ramp and things like that. There are lots of opportunities in public health that don't have a lot to do with just like, the epidemiology of it. I'm gonna survey everyone about how much syphilis is in the community, right? That's kind of what we think of traditionally with public health nursing. Health informatics, I'm gonna talk a lot about that, and social media later on. The pharmaceutical industry, like, whether we like it or not, we're in bed with big pharma. There's lots of wonderful, amazing pros about big pharma. I literally, one of the talks, I just got done speaking about this in Florida to 2,000 physicians about the medications that we have that can end the HIV epidemic by 2030. We have the tools and the resources to have 0 HIV transmissions sexually by 2030. Those medications exist right now. People are taking them. We don't know enough about it. Not enough primary care providers are providing it. Everyone's scared of HIV testing because most physicians in primary care, and physicians specifically in primary care, are old school. So if someone came in, first of all, they didn't want to have a conversation with them about HIV. They weren't only having conversations with people about HIV if they were self-identifying as gay cisgender men. Not the only population of people who have HIV, right? And once they did the test, they didn't know what to do with it. So I'm on this whole like campaign, this whole year actually, I'm giving 6 talks about the HIV test is super simple, and managing HIV in your office is actually easier than managing diabetes. It really is. So we wouldn't be here though. I wouldn't be able to talk about this. I wouldn't be able to like look at someone who was just recently diagnosed with HIV and say, you know what, you're gonna die in a car accident at 93. HIV is actually not the thing that's gonna kill you, because people still very much believe that. I wouldn't be able to have that conversation without Big Pharma, right? So I'm the first one to say thank you. I'm also the first one to be like, we're in bed with the devil, right? Like it's bad, not gonna lie. But in the pharmaceutical industry, they love nurses. They love nurses. Oh my gosh. And listen, if you are about that bag, I know nurses who make $500,000 easy, 9 to 5 in the pharmaceutical industry, easy. Right. Everyone's like, hold on, wait a second. You said $500,000 out. Right, and that's with the 401k and the vacation and the corporate life and the whatever. If that's the life that you're about, there's some really fantastic things that can happen in pharmaceutical industries. And it's not even necessarily just related to research or sales, right? Because everyone's like, oh, I don't want to be a drug mule and go out to the doctor's office. Okay, you don't have to be that person, but you can still get that bag in the pharmaceutical industry. Some more non-traditional career paths. This is a little bit more, again, there's crossover here with everybody, but this is a little bit more once you're sort of master's prepared, right? So lots of policy, advocacy, and politics. I'm a big political person. I'm sure y'all probably know that by now, but I'm trying to leave some of that out of here. Telemedicine, of course, is huge. It is exploding. I kept finding really contradictory statistics about telemedicine and nurse practitioners, so I didn't really put it in there, but more or less what they're saying is that it is our oyster. We can do with it what we want, because a lot of physicians, first of all, there's so many physicians retiring, and a lot of physicians don't want to get behind this, and a lot of nurse practitioners are picking it up. So in states that are allowing full practice authority, there are exceptions that you can get that will allow you to see patients who live in other states that they live in an area where there's a dearth of primary care providers. So if someone lives in rural Idaho and you're here in California, there's a partner agreement between Idaho and California. This is an example between Idaho and California that you can be sitting in your sweater at home and drinking coffee and telemedicine and helping that person in Ohio, even though you're not necessarily licensed there, right? So if you got kids at home, you got to run a home-based business, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Whatever, but you still want to provide health, you can do that from a telemedicine standpoint, right? A lot of people don't think about that. Entrepreneurship, we're going to talk more about that in a little bit. And then health journalism, that's kind of my jam. My bachelor's degree is actually in journalism and mass communications. My bachelor's, I'm a trained TV news writer. So I was trained to put together a news show and then write the content that you would see the anchors saying. Be like, okay, so-and-so, you're gonna tease this story up and then you're gonna like cut away to the reporter we have live on the scene. The reporter's gonna talk about this and that hit's gonna be like 1 minute and 17 seconds. All right, anchors be ready, right? That was my job. Love journalism. I know people don't, let me rephrase. I know young people don't watch TV anymore. Young people don't watch TV news, but it's interesting that's starting to change. I think people are starting to realize like these people who are journalists on TikTok and YouTube aren't. And in this age of like fake news, which we're gonna talk more about in a minute, I think journalism is going to have a resurgence, right? And there's a need for us in journalism. Some other non-traditional career paths. First of all, how's my girl's hair? Super jealous. So I put this picture in. I lost my hair about 20 years ago. So healthcare, corporate administration. You know, I used to work at Pepsi. So before I became a nurse, bachelor's was in journalism and mass communications. I was on air in Des Moines, Iowa. But I was like, I am queer and black and fat and whatever in Des Moines, Iowa in 2000. What am I doing here? Like, I got to get out of here. So I was like, I got to go to Chicago. So I got out and I went to Chicago. But in that world, you don't jump from being on air in market 70, whatever, to market 3 in Chicago, right? So I kind of parlayed my journalism into more of a PR and marketing. So I worked for some nonprofit organizations and then eventually Pepsi. And I helped manage, I did some really cool things at Pepsi, including with the brands Gatorade and Quaker Oats. I got to kind of handle Candace Parker for a while when she was one of our athletes with Gatorade. It was so cool. One of the things that Pepsi does is they have nurses. They have nurses who work for Pepsi, that 9-to-5 life, that getting that bag life, that 401k and the pension and all that stuff. But what they talk about is they can either consult on, are our products actually as healthy as possible? So can Quaker Oats really put on that label, will reduce your cholesterol by whatever, right? There are actual scientists who were doing actual research so that Quaker Oats could actually say this. Now, I mean, they're being paid by Pepsi, right? So they're going to want to come up with the right results, right? We know y'all are learning. You can interpret results a lot of different ways, right? But there are nurses that were part of those teams. There are nurses who are occupational health people. There were nurses who were part of the marketing campaign for Quaker Oats, for Gatorade, things like that. So I know you don't think about like, I'm gonna go work for PepsiCo and Gatorade as a nurse and use my skills as a nurse, but it's possible. Global health, I mean, this is obviously going on right now. We have like 3 active genocides going on. I'm not gonna get political into those, but Doctors Without Borders, many of the subdivisions of Doctors Without Borders are run by nurses. It's just called Doctors Without Borders. So if that's your jam, you want to get at it. They are always looking for people. There's lots of other organizations. The American Red Cross and the Red Crescent will send you different places. If you're like, I want to go to a different country, I want to help, it is basically sort of carte blanche. They're like, you're a nurse, you're qualified, you come highly recommended. Great. Where do you want to go? And they send you off and you're like running clinics. You're like organizing the entire thing. You're like a project manager of the clinic in this town, right? I think a lot of people don't think about that too. They're like, oh, I'm going to go on like a little medical mission for like a week. That's great. Or you can go and serve in like Uganda as your career and make good money and really make an impact on people. And you don't need to be master's or doctorally prepared to do that. Okay, they are ready for you. Technology, we're going to talk about in a little bit. Consulting, some of these big, crazy consulting firms hire nurses to go into organizations to review their occupational health. Why is there so much turnover? Why are your people unhappy, right? If you're a nurse, maybe you're you've got your NP or a master's in psych, you can go in and help evaluate the occupational health of an organization. And you can do that through, like, while working, you can do that independently, entrepreneurship, or you can do that while working for a consulting firm. So these organizations will bring in consulting firms and they'll be like, okay, we have so much turnover. Kaiser just did this recently. My husband works for Kaiser. Kaiser just did this recently, and they had this whole like 2.5-year long evaluation of their organization and why people were really happy there, but why some people were unhappy there, whatever. There are nurses on that team who are mental health professionals, who are occupational health professionals. Again, if that's the life that you want, if that's the thing that you want, you're looking for that sort of corporate life stability, you want to be like corporate Aaron and circle back and download and follow up. Nobody? Y'all don't watch corporate Aaron? No, on TikTok? Oh, you're students, that's why. You're actually studying. I'm proud of you. That's good. I'm proud of you. When you need a little break, go on TikTok and just search corporate Aaron. You'll die. It's pretty good. So if you want that life, it's there for you, right? Legal nurse consultants also do very well. A lot of people who need to work from home, maybe loved bedside nursing but got injured, have kids, have other illnesses. You can do case reviews from home. They will just send you a case and they'll ask you to review it, and then you just weigh in. You do a little bit of writing about what you think happened. You don't always have to be like an expert on the stand. You can be if you want. Those individuals who are experts on the stand and consult either the defense or the prosecution, either one, those individuals make goo gobs of money, like asinine amounts of money. Because it's not the easiest work. But if you like reading, if you like sort of your CSI aspect, like if you like investigating a little bit and being like, oh, here's the thing, right? That's actually not up to standards, right? Why did the ER do that? Oh, that even something as simple as like there were sepsis bolus protocols in the ER, right? So someone comes in, they're septic. Why did you not give them the fluid that they need? Well, if you didn't document that they have heart failure or something else going on, then you have no other real reason to not give them the fluid. The nurse said give the fluid, but the physician said no. Great. And you document that or whatever, right? And then the nurse gets defended in court because you stood up for her. Does that make sense? Lots of things like that, okay? Are you feeling good about non-traditional paths, by the way? Yeah, there's like all this other cool, God, I almost keep saying it, stuff, all this other cool stuff you can do. It's awesome. So I promised we were going to talk a little bit about journalism, a little bit about media, a little bit about those things, because that is my jam. And then I promise I'm going to leave some good Q&A at the end. So have y'all heard of the Woodhull study? Not yet. Man, I gotta come and teach about this. Okay, I would love to. Although last time I taught, were any of y'all in here last time I taught last semester? I'll teach. Oh, I love endo. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's do it. I can talk about my levothyroxine that I've been on since I was 20 whatever years old. I love endo, especially in the world of all these new GLP-1 agonists. Like hormones are changing the world, right? Changing the world. Oh, we're not going to talk about those? Not good? No, I think it's great. See, okay, you and I should do this. We'll have a little debate for your endo class about why I think these things are changing the world. Do you know that some of the new research is showing that some of these medications for people, they've only been studied in people who are already diagnosed with cardiovascular disease, but do not have diabetes. It is lowering those individuals' risks of heart attack by 20%, just being on low dose Ozempic. Now, and I have lots of thoughts about everyone's like, oh, skinny people in Beverly Hills are taking on my Ozempic and I can't get it because my grandma died of DKA because she couldn't get Ozempic. So we know medically Ozempic is not going to treat grandma's DKA. Also, capitalism, supply and demand, big pharma, right? They have plenty of supply. They haven't released the supply because they want to keep demand high. That's why grandma's not on Ozempic. I digress. Okay, I will happily stick around. Clearly, I have strong feelings about this. Also, I just love teaching about endo because I don't think we do enough about it either. Okay, so the Woodhull study was originally commissioned in 1998, and this woman actually founded USA Today, and she's a journalist, and she met with folks from Sigma Theta Tau, the Nursing Honor Society, looking at the representation of women in media. And they wanted to go back as far back as they could. So like news programming in the 60s and 70s, all the way up through like the 90s. And the original report, essentially, there's a ton of stuff in there. Women are terribly misrepresented, and things like we know about on the red carpet, right? When men come on the red carpet, we ask Leonardo DiCaprio, A, who he's dating, and B, how did you get into character for this? What was your inspiration, right? Why do you love acting? Did this movie touch someone's lives? What do we ask women on the red carpet? What are you wearing, right? Okay, so this study was actually one of those studies that started launching those conversations. But the thing for us that came out of this study was that nurses are only 4% of medical experts in the news. They were specifically talking about news. Remember, this is 1998. Some of y'all weren't even born yet. We didn't have social media. We didn't have other people giving you news on YouTube or whatever, on Facebook. You just had to watch the TV. Have you heard of TV? It's this thing people put on their wall. Yeah? No? Okay. So you had to watch the news on TV. Nurses were only 4% of experts. Almost 0% of experts on TV. That 4% was actually only in print media. So this really rocked the nursing world. Now, like we like to do, we hang on to this stuff, right? We have long memories of nursing. Whew, child. People still quote this as if it's today. The problem is, it's still today, right? We're only 5% of experts.
Right shoulder.
Even though, y'all know this one.
It's all right shoulder. It's very painful.
Right? This is from a Gallup poll.
Touching it, lifting it, moving it.
In a row, we're what? The most trusted profession. Say it louder for the folks in the back. The most trusted profession. 22. Now, that gets, That's not actually the question that Gallup asks, by the way. I'm a little type A. I'm a little about things like this. They don't actually ask that question. They're like, which profession is the most ethical? Okay. So nurses, veterinarians, yeah, engineers, dentists. Wow. Okay. Doctors down to 5. They were up right behind us for a long time. Pharmacists, police officers, college teachers, psychiatrists, chiropractors, right? And then I think 11 is clergy. I think that's really interesting. Clergy didn't even make top 10. Now, everyone is down. Every single person is down. Every single category is down basically since COVID. Since social media has gone wild, since all of the things and the fake news of it all and all of those things, everyone is considered less ethical. In fact, only 78% of people surveyed thought that nurses were very or extremely ethical in our practice. That number used to be close to 90. So we kind of took a hit during COVID, but we're still number 1, right? So y'all probably heard that too, right? We're the most trusted profession for 22 years. We are, that's great. But my thing is, like, what are we doing about it? Did I skip the slide? No. What are we doing about it? We're the most trusted. Okay, great. So we're the most trusted. We're the most ethical profession. People love us. How many of y'all now have someone in your life who literally probably texted you in the last 48 hours? What's this thing on my foot? My nose is running. I heard about this medication. Could you give me Ozempic? Right? Like that. All these questions, people know us. They trust us. There's a reason. They should, because of our profession, because of our education, I think because of the people who are drawn to nursing. But what are we doing with that 22 years of trust? Some of my colleagues who are probably listening are going to see this later, don't like it when I say this. But we just stand on that. We just keep telling folks that we're the most trusted profession 22 years in a row. What are we doing about it? How are we using it to change the world? I think as a profession, we have to evolve and we have to keep up while also being the best providers of care in the hospital, in clinics, and whatever. But I think we already do that. Now, we don't have the resources to do it. We're all understaffed, right? There's a shortage of all of us. There's not enough teachers to teach people to make up for the shortage. All those things, we got to fix all that stuff in our profession. But also, while hanging on to that core, if you don't evolve, you die. I don't want my profession to die. I don't want y'all's profession to die. I think we have to figure out ways that we can not just talk about, okay, so we were 4% in 1998 of media experts, and now we're 5% in 2022. That's the last data. So what do we do about that for 30 years? Apparently, Nathan, right? Why are we still only 5%? Great, we're 22 years as the most trusted profession. What are we doing about it? So it's changing slowly. Some mainstream media are starting to grasp onto, in particular, nurse practitioners, but all of nursing, right? What do you normally see? Media coverage about nurses. We're on strike. What's that? A mistake. A murderer. A drug addict, right? She kept taking the Dilaudid out and then she didn't waste it and then she was put in her pocket, right? And then this is no offense. I am telling you what is portrayed in the media. This is no offense. A nice middle-aged white lady holding a baby because we're caring. And apparently the only people on earth that can be caring are nice middle-aged, slightly overweight white ladies, right? Obviously, right? So nice middle-aged, slightly overweight white ladies holding a baby, being caring, being a nurse. When I just told y'all all this, the nurses are out there changing the world, doing all these things, getting crazy, making that bag, like doing whatever, right? They don't represent, I don't think there's any middle-aged, slightly overweight, soft white ladies here in this room, right? But we're all nurses. No, I got you, girl. So it is changing in the mainstream media, but I don't think it's changing fast enough, and I don't think it's changing good enough because we have a lot to deal with on our profession. We have shortages. We have really, really sick people. capitalism, racism, queer phobia built into the healthcare industry. We're trying to constantly fight that. We need to keep constantly fighting that. Part of that, from my marketing background, part of that from my marketing background is marketing ourselves. How do we talk about ourselves in the media? Gatorade changed the game for everyone around the world, right? You wouldn't have all these other drinks and these whatever and blah, blah, blah if it wasn't for Gatorade. Now, clearly I'm biased. I used to work for them. But you wouldn't have that if it wasn't for Gatorade. Gatorade can make an amazing product, get it on the shelves. It can taste great. It can hydrate you better than anybody else. But if you don't know about it, you're not going to drink it, right? If you don't know what nurses are doing, what we're capable of, you're not going to look to nurses as media sources. You're not going to look to nursing to hire for you to hire in your corporate environment that can come in and change the culture and make your people healthier, right? You're not going to think about that. So I think it is on us, big loudmouth people like me, push the envelope a little bit. Stuff like this is helping, but what I hate about this headline is I feel like it pits doctors against nurse practitioners, right? Don't you get that energy? Listen, we got a whole relationship with physicians, right? And I love physicians in the state of California still. Can't do my job without physicians. Physicians are great. We're all I know everyone says this, we're part of a team. No, we really are part of a team. Like you have to be, like we're a part of a team. But doctors are getting it too, man. Like physician doctors are getting it too. It's tough in these streets for everybody right now. But stuff like this is starting to change. Stuff like this is like, hey, this nurse practitioner actually was a better diagnostician than the 7 physicians that this person went to, essentially is what this article is about. So the narrative is starting to change, but it's still very focused on this oh, this nice person cared enough as a nurse and went above and beyond, not taking care of herself, but went above and beyond and whatever as a nurse to care for these people. So it's changing, but not as fast as I think it should. So social media is here, whether we like it or not. It is not going anywhere. It is just growing. Platforms will change and grow. You know that Facebook is still the #1 platform. Do you know that it is actually now the 2nd fastest growing platform again? We have literally come full circle. I can't stand it. I don't like it. I don't want to go back to it. That's a different talk. But social media is here, whether we like it or not. It's not going anywhere. Until the apocalypse, social media is here. So y'all get behind it. I think that one of the issues in our profession is that we're still pretty antiquated about how we look at social media. Look at the bottom of that pyramid. What is the first thing you hear about social media constantly as a nurse? Oh, don't share patient health information. I don't know if you guys follow at New Nurse Academy, Katie Duke, me, I don't know, thousands of nurses on social media that you follow. How many of them actually share patient information? Right, none, because when they did, they got their butts fired and sued and kicked off of social media. We learned that real fast. We learned that 15 years ago. For the few sort of bad apples, if you will, who were, or maybe not even bad apples, but they just didn't understand the power of social media, shared a story that maybe was a little bit inappropriate. But you can make huge impact on people's lives through social media without talking about anything that is going to put you in any sort of HIPAA trouble. But what do you probably learn here in school? Well, first of all, I don't want to talk about social media, right? That's what your professors are probably saying. Oh, well, I don't want to talk about social media because they don't understand it. Fine. But then the next thing you hear is, well, don't do it on work time. Don't do it while you're at work. Don't use UCLA Wi-Fi to go on social media. What are we talking about? Is this 2003? Come on. Social media is here. It is a tool. I got paid $15,000 last week to talk to a room full of 2,000 physicians about HIV because of my social media. Physicians came up to me afterwards crying, having lived through the worst, the AIDS pandemic is still going on, having lived through the worst of the AIDS pandemic in the 80s, saying, I never thought we would be here. I think about all the patients I lost. Can I please call you? Will you come consult with me so I can figure out how to prescribe PrEP and HIV treatment in my office? One person was from Nacogdoches, Texas. Nacogdoches, Louisiana. That's crazy. Louisiana is one of the hardest hit states when it comes to HIV in young people. That person wanting to do that, that's amazing. All of this, the reason I was invited to this talk and partner with these organizations because I partner with CDC about their HIV stuff and I do little social media posts for them. And then this organization reached out, and then this organization was like, wow, you're really good. So we're gonna pay you much money to talk to these physicians 6 times this year. Okay, great, thanks.
That's the power of social media. Yes, of course, we need to, don't be at work posting people's stuff on social media, right? But I think we get that.
Do you want to come up here for a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be the best thing with the time.
Okay. I'm almost done, y'all, I promise. I promised I'd leave 15 minutes for Q&A. So we got to do things a little bit differently. And someone who is doing it differently, I don't know if y'all follow Nurse Alice Benjamin. So she was sort of one of the first nurses to really get into the media in a really significant way that wasn't in a reality TV show. And I'm not knocking reality TV at all. There's actually some really great opportunities. Like, listen, if millions of people are watching the house, this is one of my dreams. I don't like the Housewives. I don't really watch it. But if they want to have me come on the Housewives and I'll sit at that dinner and have somebody throw something at me, but I can also educate the women in that room in a funny, engaging manner, that means millions of people are watching are also going to be educated. It's the old church model. I grew up as a pastor's kid. And so people come into church because they heard music. People come into church because it's joyous, because they're happy. They heard a drum set and they were like, oh, wait, church is jamming out. Let me go in here and see what this is about. And then they got the word of the Lord, right, or whatever. And this is not a religious talk, like I'm not a religious person anymore, but that's how I grew up, right? So that same model works. There's a reason why people don't watch Sanjay Gupta on CNN, but they do watch The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Let's use that, right? Alice was one of the first people. And I'm not sure I can navigate through her website. I don't know if I can. I don't think so. But what you can see there across the top, consultations, health and wellness, relationships, food, health library. She has an entire resource library. She just posted an article about Ozempic, like we were talking about before. Media training. She does training similar to what I do in terms of like getting nurses ready to be in the media. This is all Alice's world. Alice started as a bedside nurse. She has 400 trillion names behind her. She's been a critical care nurse and all these different things, but she has gone in this different direction and is serving populations and people online through social media because she was able to rise above that bottom part of that pyramid. She was able to understand the impact that we have as the most trusted profession in this new world of digital media. And she's really, truly making an impact on people's lives because of this. So go asknursealice.com after you go to my website. AskTheNP.com. Okay, so a couple of other things. You probably have heard about informatics. We have a couple of really great informatics professors here. There are I only show this. We're not going to walk through this whole thing. I only show this because there are, as you know, or you're working on your theses, since most of y'all are master's or Meccan students. You got to have a model and a framework through which you're going to write your theses, through which you're going to do your research, through which you're going to evaluate the literature. There are models out there. This is one of the most popular ones, but there are models out there through which we are evaluating the research and the literature about informatics, about the digital information that we get about patients, about how hospital systems, healthcare systems, consulting agencies use that information. You can be a computer nerd as an RN, if you want to be. You can be a data nerd as an RN, right? That's the whole point of this slide. I am not a data nerd, but I appreciate them. The world of the EHR is changing, right? You see this floating in front of her like that? We all thought that was crazy. Y'all are also too young to remember Minority Report. Anybody watch that movie, Minority Report? God, I'm old. Tom Cruise was doing this Star Trek stuff, hitting the screens and stuff, whatever. And we were like, that'll never happen. And then my husband bought a Vision Pro last week. So you put this thing on, this Apple, you put the thing on and your screens are floating in front of you and you can still see the real world. So his dumb butt is walking around the house with screens going and he's watching the news and his emails over here and his texts are over here and he's doing whatever, but he can still see what's going on. That is coming. That is coming to healthcare. I promise you, get ready for it. We are going to be able to integrate things like that into our electronic health record soon, in the next 10 years. We already have AI that will write my notes for me. I cannot tell you the number of people who pitch me on LinkedIn. Please let me come into your hospital system so we can show you our AI
that can just write your note for you. So I go in and I talk to a patient, and then the AI listens to me, and it just does, it writes out my history and physical, it writes out my history of present illness, it'll do my assessment and plan, it'll do the whole thing for me. It will show up in Epic. I just go and make sure it's cool, sign. That's now, today in 2024, and AI isn't even all that great yet. It's coming. If you want to influence that as a nurse, you can. And we probably should, right? Like we really should. Almost done. Here's those guys wearing those Vision Pro, right? I was going to show you. These are a couple of physicians. Well, one's a physician, one's a like a consultant at a hospital in Boston. That is a dummy in the bed, by the way. That is not a real person. What he's demonstrating in this picture is you can teach people how to intubate. You can teach people how to suture. You can teach people how to do little procedural things with this patient. There's also the robotics that do a lot of surgeries these days, like simple appendectomies and things like that. You can control the robots through this Vision Pro, or at least will be eventually. So he's standing there as a surgeon on his Vision Pro doing this in the air, taking out somebody's appendix. Happening now, happening now. We need to influence this, right? Most trusted profession in America. Very smart people, very experienced people. We approach people holistically, not just by their diseases. We need to be involved in this. We need to influence this. This can't just be the physicians, right? This one is wild, and then we're done. I have to share this video with you.
The giant leap just announced now for AI technology using prompts to generate videos that range from the realistic to the fantastical. ABC's Zoreen Shah joins us now with more. And Zoreen, as you can imagine, there are a lot of ethical concerns here too.
Yeah, ethical for sure, Gio. I mean, some companies already have rules to address that, but the possibilities are wild. I mean, imagine saying just a few words like news anchors drinking coffee on the moon. Well, a slick video can now be created in seconds, and pretty soon anyone will easily be able to mimic a Hollywood graphic designer. This morning, OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, introducing the world to this groundbreaking text-to-video AI tool called Sora that can quickly create videos on command like this.
This feels like a very big moment, a turning point.
CEO Sam Altman stating, "We're teaching AI to understand and simulate the physical world in motion. This is how it works. Put a prompt into the app, like this one OpenAI featured. They say, a movie trailer featuring the adventures of the 30-year-old spaceman wearing a red wool knitted motorcycle helmet. Blue sky, salt desert, cinematic style, shot on 35mm film, vivid colors. Boom. In seconds, the system creating this. Experts say generative AI, like tools already out there by companies like Runway and Pico Lab, could hold major consequences.
It's going to shift everything for us. We can no longer trust what we see and what we hear.
Should we as a society be nervous about this?
It's a mix. There's a lot of excitement and there's a lot of fear. This tool and the others on the market are such concern because of the speed at which the technology is evolving.
So far, the company is only allowing a few users to test features, say they're taking important safety steps, but haven't yet announced when they will make it public. What kind of impact is this going to have on Hollywood?
Time will tell. It's either going to be a threat and replace jobs, or it's going to create more jobs. You know, these tools still need a human in the loop. That means there needs to be a human that prompts the tool into creating the incredible videos that we've all seen on our feeds this week. And that takes writing and that takes creativity.
So here's the thing. It is not perfect yet. The example that OpenAI gave is it doesn't understand cause and effect. So if you prompt someone to, for example, bite a cookie, the cookie might not have a bite mark. Emmanuel says that the tech is improving, though, and soon our naked eye will not know if something is made by a computer or a human. Guys?
Well,
Soon, we will not be able to tell if it was made by a computer or a human. Just think about the huge ethical ramifications of this, and who can, y'all come in, and who better to help guide the ethical nature of this, the ethical principles of all of this than us, right? Think about how this is going to impact us. Already we have patients and families, whatever, who are like, well, I Googled this and you need to give my grandma this medication.
This, by the way, they created this in a year. I don't know if y'all saw that crazy like Will Smith video where he's like eating the spaghetti and it's all weird and funky looking. The improvements on that video to this have been in a year. So our patients are going to be accessing information online and seeing videos, and we and they are not going to be able to tell whether or not they're real or AI generated. We can influence that. We can influence the direction of AI, and we should. We cannot be scared of it, though. We have to change our way of thinking. We cannot think I have to go work in a med surg unit for 3 years before I'm qualified enough to bring my ethical principles as a nurse to help influence AI, right? If we don't evolve and change, we die. Was that dramatic? Was that a little too? I'm not a fear-mongery person, but I think I just did. My bad. All right, and I think that's it. Let me get to my next slide. Oh yeah, last thing here. I mean, obviously very important. No matter what you do, no matter what the profession, which direction you go, if you're about that bag, like we were talking and joking about, whatever it is, don't forget why we do this. I said this early on, there is a reason why certain people are drawn to this profession. And I know that everyone's like, oh, you can work 312s and live your life and make a bunch of money. And okay, fine. That's great. Why do we do this? Every single person in this room, every single person watching this Zoom right now does this because we know at the forefront, at the very beginning, at the very core of what we do, it is about people. And so don't ever, no matter what non-traditional or traditional or both or mixed up path you seek, remember that it is always, always, always about people. All right, I think we have like 5 minutes before I dip into your, I'm gonna teach endo today. I'm kidding. Okay, questions. Like I said, this is super open. You can ask me about anything. You can ask me about my life. You can ask me about presentation, about what I think about these things. We can talk money. We can talk what I do now, my craziest stories. No crazy stories.
I do have a question that was submitted. Oh, go for it. Hopefully,
Do you feel that your DNP was worth it financially?
I do, for me personally. I think a really important question that folks should ask themselves before they get this is, what is your why? So it was really important for me to be able to distill and understand research in a significant way quickly so that I could distill that to the public in a responsible way. Because I am taking my career into the media, right? And that is almost, but not quite yet, my full-time job. So if Dr. James Simmons is on your TV or your TikTok or your whatever, or your Vision Pro or your AI video, and I say, I read the research about Ozempic, let me talk to you, I needed to back that up personally. And for the millions of people that I talk to on TV almost every week, I needed to be able to back that up. So for me, that was really important. And what was great about the DNP for me was that I didn't feel like I needed to be a bench, that could be a 5 to 7 year PhD to get that. I could learn how to apply, right? The DNP is more take the research, apply it, learn in the real world, and then give that data back to the research, right? A simple way to describe it. My application in the real world isn't research. So while a lot of DNP's application in the real world is in their practice, my practice isn't. So I wanted to be able to take the research, analyze it quickly, distill it, get it out in 30-second sound bites in my practice, which is the media. So for me, it's very, very, very important. I do know some folks who just get it so that they can be called doctor. That's trash. I do know that a lot of programs, including here at UCLA, are moving towards requiring it as a practice doctorate. I think if those programs are done in the right way, it's really good. We need to catch up with pharmacy and occupational physical therapy. I think that's great. But those programs need to be done in the right way.
I have one more question. Do you believe that it is the duty and obligation of a nurse to dedicate their lives to the advancement and image of their profession, or can they just look at it as a job?
How much time do I have? Wow, that's very interesting. No, I mean, there's 5 million of, I'm gonna do this, I think that person was online. Sorry, I'm in here. I think that's an excellent question, right? Everybody needs to live their life, right? Individually. There are 5 million of us, give or take a few 100,000, depending on who you ask, in the United States. Do I think that every single 5 million nurse in here should be living their life to advocate for the profession and do the things that I do? No, absolutely not. I don't think anybody, this is me, I don't think anybody should do anything for the money, but that's just the way I live my life. And if you are just about the money, promise you, there are way easier ways to make a lot more money, right? But the stability, I very much appreciate that. Where some people are in their lives, the stability of nursing, always having a job, sometimes the predictability of it, the schedule can be really great. Like all of those things are amazing and wonderful. And while, you know, the BSN median average is about low 80s, $80,000 to $85,000 a year. That doesn't go as far in LA. But I promise you $85,000 goes very far in Fayetteville, Arkansas, right? So if you're trying to raise your family and you got 3 kids at home and your husband's out of work or like, I don't know, whatever, and you want to get your butt to become a nurse because you do really help people and that's your primary motivation, I think that is just as noble. But those who have the privilege and the access and the power to be able to advocate for our profession and be involved in things like AI and how we're portrayed in the media and all of those things, I think if you can, you should. But you should also not feel guilty if that's not your journey.
Thank you, Dr. Simmons. And we will make available the recording for those of you who would like to catch up later. Oh my gosh. We're gonna go ahead and close the Zoom.